Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of the Unlaced podcast. I did miss last week. I was masquerading away in Byron Bay with the hippies. I might have turned into one myself, so apologies for missing last week, but we are back. As I always say, if you are new here, thank you for coming along. Please give us a like and subscribe. It's how we grow. And for the regulars, the heartbeat of the podcast, thank you for coming back again. Now, we know I love my combat sports. We've been talking MMA and UFC for a period now, and obviously the Jack Jenkins episode blew up. If you guys haven't seen that, go back and watch that because Jackie Jenkins is going to be on a tear soon in the UFC. And he was also kind enough to help me get this man on, who Braden and I got to watch in Perth on one of the greatest UFC cards going around. It was electric in the stadium that day, but this man was electric as well, and Jimmy Crute, mate. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, bro.
Mate, it's been a crazy few weeks for you. You've been off in Thailand.
Yeah, me and Jackie went to Thailand for a couple of weeks just to sort of start our camp, and it was a pretty cool trip. And we just trained the house down, honestly.
Yeah. What was the purpose of that? Because when I spoke to Jack, the way Jack framed it to me, he's like, mate, there's just a bunch of Dagestanis out there. We're just going to wrestle. Yeah. And he's like, Volk's going to be out there and all these other fighters. And he's like, you were going. It's like, it sounded like it was like a planned kind of training camp almost, in a sense.
Well, it's sort of funny for me because I was like, when Jack only told me the night before, because we were looking like 2 weeks prior, and there was just no flights. I was like, fuck this, I'm not doing stopovers, I'm not going.
Yeah.
And then the night before we leave, Jack messages me, goes, hey, I found these business class flights for fucking under $1,000. Let's go. I was like, all right, no problem. So then I left the next day. But I sort of went over there with the mindset of I'm just going to chill out before camp, get some work in, but enjoy a bit more R&R. And then I got there and I just went, fuck this.
Yeah.
And I just sort of left a little bit of myself in that gym. I just fucking went to town on training. Had a little bit of fun, but yeah, just really trained the house down and come back with a fresh mindset and ready to tackle this fight camp.
What's the benefit of going to train in Thailand for a few weeks versus training here in your eyes?
The lifestyle, man. And yeah. I don't know, there's just something I think because the Muay Thai is so old, thousands of years old, and that everyone there just understands fighters. You go, you get a masseuse, get a massage, and they've been dealing with fighters for so long. It's just they know how to do it. And I know you wake up, you train, you go get a massage, you eat, have some food, you train again, and it's just wash, rinse, repeat. And it's just it's the best place in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, Jack loves it too, because he's obviously the Thai dollar, whatever it may be, is so it's cheap and you can live like a king.
Yeah.
So you get that benefit as well, especially if you're not like a pro fighter like some of you guys. It's a good place to go and get trained, I imagine. There's actually a bit of a funny story that I wanted to speak about, because I was told by Jack, and apparently you were there, and you probably know this story actually better than me, but something along the lines of he was riding his moped or scooter, and he either hit a bloke or did something, and before he knew it, there was this specific guy, Thai guy, was going at him hard to try and knock him out. And Jack's like, whoa, calm down. And then a few more came in. And then he goes, you pulled up on the bike. You're like, Jack, you all right? And he goes, does it fucking look like I'm all right?
No. It was actually quite calm, Jack. So I pulled up and I just saw this guy yelling at Jack, and I was just like, what the fuck's going on here? So I pulled up and I got off the bike. I'm like, Jack, you all right? He goes, yeah. And then out of nowhere, this fucking bloke comes with a chair.
Oh my God.
Throws this chair at Jack. Jack's just run off. Obviously doesn't want to fucking.
Bro, yeah, two UFC fighters just pulled up.
Jack being a nice guy, letting this guy live.
Yeah, exactly right.
But no, he ran up and I'm like, oh shit, what's going on here?
Oh my God.
So I'm I said, you're right. And he goes, yeah, just go get one of the trainers. I ran and grabbed one of the trainers because I speak Thai and whatever. And they sorted it out. But I was like, fuck, are we gonna have to bash it?
Which, mate, one of the best pieces of travel advice I ever got from someone, and I learnt the harsh way in Italy once, but it was never fight with locals.
No,
never ever fight with locals. What does that mean? And then one time got in, and the next thing you know, we're ducking and weaving streets just to avoid people.
This is how many? What's gonna happen? Either he's gonna call 10 mates, he's gonna stab us, he's gonna. You don't know. So we Jackie did the right thing, ran off, and sort of took the high road out of there. Yeah,
which is good on Jack for that. But he's good like that, I think. But with actually just on that, with your UFC contracts, is it do you have a clause where you can't fight in public? Because obviously when I lived at the AIS, boxers weren't allowed to fight outside of the ring because their fists were classed as weapons, in a sense. Is that? It's not really, because Diaz is putting people to sleep all the time in the street, but
yeah, I think it depends on the situation, man. It depends on law and whatnot, but my view is if I have to defend myself, I'm going to defend myself. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I will do everything in my power to get out of the situation. I'm sure Jack's the same.
Yeah.
But if I have to defend myself or my family or my defenseless mates,
you're done.
All rules are off.
Yeah, we love that. It's just funny because I just think about the Perth card, and I think it was the first UFC card. I mean, I've watched UFC for 10 years, like all the majority of the cards, all the major ones, and now it's kind of like every card I watch because all of them are so good. Like all the divisions are really stacked. And every sort of title fight is like against like a legacy fighter who either hasn't lost or something like that, or a pound for pound. It's so good at the moment, the standard. But the experience in Perth, I've heard people, I had a few mates tell me that they've been to Super Bowls, they've been to the AFL Grand Final, but like the UFC is the best sporting event they've ever been to. Braden, you might echo this. He was there for the buzz anyway of Perth, but when we were there, I was like, fuck, I see why.
It's electric, man. Like, it's just like, how could any other sport compete when it's just like, I think fighting is like the sport. Like if someone could score better than me in basketball, but if we play by my rules in basketball, they're not going to score on me because I'm going to kick them in the leg.
Yeah.
So
where there's no limits, that's why I actually think, and I've played a lot of sports, I think for me, mentally and physically, mixed martial arts is by far the hardest.
Yeah, and I think like, I don't know, I think it's the most primal sport. Like it's a fight, and it's a fight physically and mentally. To me, like team sports, I have all this respect in the world for other athletes, but in the fight, you can't rely on anyone else. It's just you versus your opponent, and that's it. And that's sort of like, I think, what people respect about it a bit.
Yeah, I agree. I want to talk about the Alonzo Menifield fight because I think there's an absolute war zone in the Octagon in general, but your fight in particular, it was like, I thought he was out, then I thought you were out, and somehow you guys just kept fighting and not giving up, and it was quite admirable to watch. But at the same time, coming into that fight, were you expecting it to be as difficult as a fight for you?
I don't know. That was such a weird prep for me. I had the layoff, had the knee surgery. I'm not making excuses, but that wasn't me out there. And the whole prep, we were working on avoiding punches and being smart in there. And then I just got in there and I just went, oh, fuck it, let's go.
Yeah. You guys were just swinging.
Yeah, he hit me 3 times clean. And then from then I was just like, oh, it's going to be a dirty fight then. Because I really wanted to have a clean performance against him. But I think I was just in my head a little bit too much. So I've got the rematch now, which is nice.
Well, can we share this? I mean, I wish I could say it's exclusive, but we've shot this a few days before it releases, everyone, so it probably is going to be announced. But July 8th, rematch against Alonzo Menifield in Vegas Fight Week. Yeah. Holy fuck. Dude, your Jimmy Crute's face, he's just smiling ear to ear. He is going to fuck up Alonzo Menifield. But the exciting nature for this is you get a second chance. Was that always on the cards straight away when that fight was a draw?
As soon as I got back to the hotel, I went straight up to Mick and I said, we got to run that shit back because that wasn't me. I made him look way fucking better than he is, and this time I'm going to punch the fucking cunt out of him.
That's crazy. So when the last fight camp, there was, because I actually, was there a period where you might not have fought? Or maybe not in your head, but like from a medical assessment or just with the camp? Or were you what
was the question?
When you came into the Menifield fight in Perth, like you're kind of sharing that you didn't have like the cleanest camp in regards to like you had injuries, you had a little layoff. Well, like you ever in doubt to even fight that?
No. The camp itself was fine. It was the lead up into the camp.
Okay.
I had a knee reconstruction and whatnot. I know, like the camp, it was what it was. At the time, it felt like it was really good, but I've learned a lot since then, and I've learned how things can be ran, and things I could be doing. So this time I'm going to implement all these new lessons.
I think people sleep on you a little bit because like obviously the last 3 fights haven't necessarily gone your way, but if you look at your career, I mean you don't lose much. And then some of I think there's been 2 fights in the UFC you've had performance of the night.
Yeah,
I'm like people don't really respect that enough because that's fucking hard to do, man.
Yeah, like I don't know, I'm not going to sit here and blow my own trumpet, but
that's right. That's my job.
I lost to the champ.
Yeah.
I lost to number 4, 5 guy in the world. And then I had a draw with Alonzo, and I should never have had a draw with Alonzo. Yeah. I'm a lot better than him.
Yeah.
And I say that confidently,
Yeah. I mean, because with the UFC in general, and I don't know how the contracts work and so forth, but I always think because it's such a tough business and so many fighters from the outside are trying to be in the UFC. As a UFC fighter, is it essentially every fight you have, is there a thought like if you don't win this, like the career can change, like they can just shaft you, or is it not like that? Are you kind of set in stone for X amount of fights? Or?
I'm in a good position where I have a pretty good relationship with the UFC. I know they like my fight style. I put on exciting. I've never been in a boring fight, so I know that they respect that and that they keep me around for that. But at the same time, mate, if I can't beat Alonzo Menifield, what the fuck am I doing?
Oh, really?
If I can't beat Alonzo Menifield, I'll fucking.
So were you, after that fight, based off that, were you like really gutted?
I was very gutted, bro. Like, I had a long, hard think about it because there was a dog shit performance.
Yeah, I just think the fact that, because after those 3 clean punches as well, I thought the strength you showed though to come back. That for me was something. Like that told me a lot about you. I thought from the outside. I'm sure a lot of the Aussie fans thought that too. But is there anything for this camp you change coming into that now with what you know?
I've had I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want to disrespect old coaches because they've all done a fantastic job, but I've had a complete camp change.
Oh, really?
I'm now training with Sammy Hayward down at Combat 1 in Laverton.
Beautiful.
And man, I just feel like I've evolved so much and not just physically, like I've always had it physically. I've never been out muscled. I've never lost a fight because of my physical. I've only lost my fights because of technical errors and gaps mentally, where now I feel like everything's coming together. I feel like my mentality is matching up with my physicality, and I'm really excited just to showcase that, man.
And have you ever fought on Fight Week before? Like, is that like? Can you explain to some of the people that don't understand what Fight Week is from a UFC perspective? Because it seems to be like arguably one of the biggest weeks in the UFC year.
So it's just where the UFC go, right, this is our week, and we're gonna go do event after event. We're gonna promote the shit out of everything. We're gonna it's just the UFC's week in Vegas of just, it's like a fight party for a week. So I'm pretty excited for that. And for me, man, I've been a fan of this sport since I was 12 years old. Yeah. So since I was 12, I've always heard about International Fight Week. I get on YouTube as a kid, and International Fight Week's just been blown up since. So for me, it's like, oh, fuck, this is sick.
Yeah.
And then this morning, like I was seeing Robbie Lawler is having his retirement fight on that card. Rob Whittaker, Alex Volkanovski. All these
it's a massive.
I'm like, holy shit! Yeah. I'm running with giants here. Like this is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's a credit to you, man. It's fucking like Volkanovski and Rodriguez. Obviously, we all want Volk to win, but I was so impressed with Rodriguez in his fight. Awesome. Man, he's like dexterity and the way he submitted that bloke. I wouldn't even know what it's called, but he was on the bottom and somehow he's wrapped his leg around his head and put him to sleep.
He's great, and he's a cool guy too. Obviously, we're going Volk all day, every day. But Yair might be one of my favorite featherweights outside of that.
He's fun to watch.
And a good person too.
He seems like a good bloke as well. Seems like a funny guy. Do you think with that, I mean, Volk was so impressive against Islam. Did you think he had that fight? Like,
I didn't at the time. I was actually on the bus getting back to the hotel.
You guys don't get to watch. I learnt this with Jack. After your fight, you go get a medical screening and then you go straight back to the hotel.
And honestly, mate, I was so fucking gutted that I couldn't be fucked. Like, I was just like, I just want to go to bed.
Yeah. Did you watch that fight back at all, or you see the highlights of it?
I have to because I really want to study Alex's grappling in that fight because I've heard just amazing things. Like all my coaches like, you gotta watch it. So I gotta make time to watch it just to study because every time I got the freestyle once or twice, and I watch Volk, I watch the way he trains, I watch the way he moves, and that's the guy to study, man. He does everything so well, and his mindset and his physicality match up so well. He's like as close as you get to a perfect fighter, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's like mentally tough too, skillful. Yeah. I mean, like Jack told me, I think Jack might have done a takedown on me once. I keep referencing Jack because I spent so much time with him, but he was like, man, that's a big thing. Like just to take him down. Like,
head on in his hips.
Yeah, like it's fucking huge because he's that talented. Like he's that hard.
I don't know, like I've never trained with him obviously because I'm so much bigger. But I watch the way that he trains with all these training partners, and I'm just like, fuck, what a good he never holds any knowledge back. He's just it's amazing. It's amazing to watch.
Yeah. I think speaking around the Perth card as well, just actually on the Perth card before I go into my next point is that one of the best atmospheres you've seen from a UFC perspective? A few people have said it is, but obviously I haven't experienced other UFC cards and so forth. Like, where did that stack up for you?
I don't know, man. I was in such a haze before the fight.
Really?
Like, I didn't take it in.
Yeah.
Like, I did at the weigh-ins. I took it in. I was like, oh, this is pretty electric. Like, it's got my hair standing up a little bit. And then at the fight, I didn't care about it. I just wanted to fight. And then I got in the fight and didn't fight the way I wanted to. So you
kind of just lock in.
I'll keep positive on the situation. It was amazing. It was an amazing week and I enjoyed it. But like, I feel like the next time I get the fight at home, it's going to be much more electric.
Yeah, I bet. Hey legends, just a quick break in this episode to thank our partners, Dabble, the gambling agency, where you dabble socially and gamble responsibly. Please only bet what you can and are willing to lose. Now, Dabble is one of the great platforms out there. I absolutely love using it. Very similar to Instagram, where you can follow some of the head honchos in the different sports, copy their bets and get some good wins on the board. Now, fortunately for me, I've been working with Dabble for over a year. This year, we are doing a stream every Tuesday night. It's called Jake's Take. It's from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m, where you can go in the Dabble app. You can join me. We get guests on every week. We bet on the dogs. We have an absolute ball, and they're talking about sport and cutting up the shop around what's going around town across all codes. So come on down, check it out. Dabble socially, gamble responsibly, and let's get back into the episode. When you prepare for, like, now the fight's July 8th, like, obviously you're training physically from like a mental perspective, because the way I watch you fight, I'm like, this kid's mentally tough. Like, you're obviously grown up in Bendigo and now you live out here in Altona, which is obviously it'd be tough to live out here in some regards. But do you prepare like anything from a mental side, or is it naturally the training and the hard work just helps you mentally go into the fight?
For me, I think I've always been a little bit too tough for my own good. I've relied on it. Up until Jamal, I'd never been really hurt with strikes. So I've always just like had that physicality to sort of fall back on. But now, like, fighting these top guys, I just can't rely on it. And it's good because I've always sharpened the other aspects of my game, and I've always had the other aspects of my game. But now it's sort of like I've got to use them. I've got to use my technique. I've got to use my skill. I've got to use my fight IQ now, because I'm not getting away with just being tough.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like a blessing in disguise where I've been found out.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, all right, you fucking cunts underestimate me now. Because watch this.
Yeah. And the people as well, you're only 27.
Yeah.
Which is super young.
Yeah, but in terms of light heavyweight.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. In regards to Australian fighting and MMA now, and like the sport rising, like, is this as good as time as you can remember in like Australian combat sports? For like the amount of quality fighters we have in the UFC is crazy.
There's that's not even a question.
And New Zealand too, obviously, as well.
When I first started, we had about 3 people in the UFC, and none of them were ranked.
Really?
We had when I first started watching, we had George Stotts, James Tahuna, Colin Noak, Anthony Prosh, and a few guys before, a few guys after. But like, it was like, I know George Stotts went on an 8-fight win streak, and that was just like, that was
what the hell.
Like, I think he was 2 fights away from the title, and it was like, fuck, George Stotts is the greatest Aussie MMA fighter ever, and that record is still very impressive. But we got guys like
Volk, pound for pound, best fighters. So it's like, the sport's evolved so much. When you were young watching the UFC, like, who were you idolizing? Was it an Aussie, or was there a specific fighter that you're like, that's the guy that makes you want to be in that sport?
I was fortunate enough to meet like Anthony Parosh when I was like, I think I was like 13 or something. Did some training with him. He came to Bendigo, did a seminar, and that was like, for me, that was like, fuck, I made a UFC fighter. That's amazing. But I think like growing up, I had like BJ Penn, Shogun, Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre. Like, it was back then, there was so many positive role models to look up to. And today, same thing. But like, for me, those were sort of my idols growing up.
What was with MMA, I always think like they're specific in sort of one field, in sort of the mixed martial arts category. And that kind of leads them into going into MMA. Like, what was your entry point to broadening to the Octagon?
Jiu Jitsu when I was 12, man. That's when
you've been doing Jiu Jitsu for that long.
I've been grappling since I was 8. I started judo when I was 8.
Fuck, man.
So like, I'm excited to showcase this stuff because I haven't used it.
Yeah, I'm
going to show it now. But yeah, man, I've only wanted to do this.
Yeah.
I've only wanted to fight in the UFC since I was 12 years old. I decided that's what I was going to do.
I've actually heard you say that before, and I was like, man, you don't, not too many, like, I think people do it young, but they're sort of in their mid to late teens when they realize, like,
for me, bro, it wasn't like, oh, that's something I would like to do. I was like,
that's it.
I don't fucking care about any other job. That's what I'm doing.
Fuck, man. That's pretty crazy, bro. I want to talk about jiu-jitsu because I think like everyone should do jiu-jitsu. Like I think it's the best form of self-defense. Like in short, like a 20-year-old girl, if she knows jiu-jitsu, she's done jiu-jitsu 2 years more than me, she can make me tap.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like fucking very technical.
Even outside of the self-defense stuff, because I don't know, there's some bad fucking people out there. Like self-defense is self-defense, but in terms of lifestyle, you know, like the ability to just be able to compete in a controlled environment and just push yourself mentally, and you know, if you get a good coach that can really help build you and support your growth, like jiu-jitsu is just a way to grow mentally, physically, spiritually, in my opinion.
I might dumb this down a little bit because there's probably some listeners who don't even know what jiu-jitsu is, but can you just explain, like in a very quick summary, like how you define jiu-jitsu?
It's the gentle art.
It kind of is.
It depends who you train with too. Like there's some bad fucking people that do some not bad, like just tough. But in terms of like for the general public, like you can go into a jiu-jitsu class, wrestle with someone, and walk away feeling better than when you go in. And it's just hurt. It's like it's wrestling with submission locks, and you tap, and that's the end of it. And then if you're training with the right people, you're so safe. Yeah.
That's one thing I learned as well, because I'm doing jiu-jitsu with Jack and his brother and some of my friends. And one of the things is my mate did it as well, and he told me the same thing. He was doing it longer than me. It's like, you can get tapped. Like if we were rolling together and you tapped me 20 times, like we would still be talking through it and you'd be helping me and I'd be helping you. It's like a kind of like a mateship. Like I don't sort of like see myself as shit as versus you, even though I am probably, but it's like this kind of partnership that you kind of pick up of each other. It's really weird, but it's really cool.
And that's what I find. Like if you train the right way, and you can train with someone that's not as experienced as you, but you can still learn. Like if I'm rolling with someone that's less experienced than me, and I pull off like a good sweep, I'll reverse back and show them how I did the sweep. And not only does that help them, but it also freshens in my mind how I set the sweep up and what I did. So
it's kind of like when you that's why I was thinking, like when you coach sometimes, or you're kind of watching people and comment on it, you kind of pick stuff up yourself. Hey? Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned his name before, and you have a good relationship with him, Mick Maynard, who is he the VP of Talent Relations still?
He's the matchmaker.
He's the matchmaker. Yeah. So
for whatever weight classes he does.
So I don't know, has he always been in that position?
For as long as I've been with the UFC, has, but
because there's stories about you that you used to email him. Reaching out to like, mate, I'm winning fights, like give me a shot type thing. Is that true?
Yeah. I was on him. I was on his case.
How, like, what, did you know him at this point? Or you just like kind of cold calling in a sense, like
emails. So you get the email address, because I was training with Dan Kelly, so Dan Kelly gave me the thing. But that's a pretty normal thing.
Is it really?
I do have a funny story about Mick Maynard if you want to hear.
I would love to.
The last time I ever got drunk was with Mick Maynard, and he made me retire.
Oh, really?
I haven't been drunk since.
You don't drink anymore, do you?
But no.
How long has that been?
Like over a year now.
Over a year.
But the last time I got drunk was with Mick, and we fucking went for it.
Sent it?
We sent it. And I woke up the next day, and I'm like, Mick, you fucking bad motherfucker.
Yeah, wow.
I couldn't keep up with him.
Where's he based? Yeah, that's saying something.
He's Aussie, but he's lived in Texas.
Lives in Texas. Okay. What's based off that with Mick Maynard and shooting him emails? Like, how did the UFC contract come about? Like, when did you get that phone call or message to say, hey, Jimmy, we want you to be a UFC fighter?
So, like, I don't know. I look dumb, but I'm actually quite smart. So what I did, I knew I wasn't UFC ready when I started calling. I started calling for the UFC when I was 4-0. For multiple reasons, but in my head, I was like, all right, I want to get my name known now. So then when I'm ready, they know who I am. So I was 4-0 and I started screaming for it. Fucking every post was like, sign me. Sending emails. And they just kept saying, just get another fight, have another fight. And then I was 6-0 and they said, hey, we got this Contender Series fight for you. Blah, blah, blah. It's in July. And I don't know when it was, but it was quite a fair bit time before it. So fuck that, I want another fight. So I took that fight with the Korean on Hex, knowing that I had the Contender Series fight. So it was a bit risky. I was like, if I lose this, I'm going to lose my... But I was like, no, fuck it. If I can't beat this guy, I'm not going to beat...
You backed yourself in.
So yeah, doubled down on myself and took the fight. Had put on, in my opinion, it was one of the greatest fights I've ever been part of. It was fucking a sick fight. Really? 5-rounder, just went to war.
Wow.
And then I got the Contender Series, and that was a pretty cool experience. You know, I went out there. That was a fun fight too. Like I knew what the Contender Series was about, so I was like, you got to win, but you got to win impressively.
Yes, because that's the catch with the Contender Series. You can win and not get a contract.
Yeah, so I went, fuck it, I'm just going to go to war with this guy.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Wow.
So I just went we fucking just brawl with him. There's like a common story across my career, and it's like I struggle not to get into a brawl.
so kind of the whole game plan goes out the window after like round one because you're just like, fuck it.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. Well, that's what Mike Tyson says. You can come with a game plan until you get smacked in the face.
The thing with me, man, is I just fucking love it. Like people see that fight in Perth, and they're like, I'm like, you don't realize I'm having fun in there. Like, I'm enjoying myself. Even though I get dropped 3 times, I'm like, oh, it was fun.
Fuck, man. That's a pretty special trait. Like, man, 99% of people on this earth don't like gravitate to brawling.
Yeah.
So you must be a special cat if you're
wired a bit differently.
Yeah, wired a bit differently. Speaking of Dana, I know we had obviously Jack on, and Jack didn't really know Dana as well. He spoke quite highly of him, but you've obviously worked with Dana for a longer period. Like, what's he actually like to deal with as a bloke, and then on a business sort of basis as well?
My view on Dana, I grew up like not idolizing him because we're in different fields, but I grew up respecting that man so much because not many people like fully grasp where the UFC was and where it is today. Like, I feel like I've been part of this sport for so long. I started really studying this sport when I was 12. And the way that Dana has made this sport grow is incredible. And for me, like, there was a lot of people saying that I didn't deserve that contract after my Contender Series fight. And Dana White backed me. And for me, like, I'm loyal to Dana White and the UFC for that, because a lot of people wouldn't have signed me because the fight, it was a great fight. It was a very entertaining fight in the Contender Series, but I didn't look very polished. I looked very green. And Dana White backed me, and he continues to back me. And even though my last 3 performances haven't been the best, he continues to back it. He still says nice things about me. When Jack got signed, he said that nice thing, and I was like, man, I've got the coolest boss in the world, eh?
Yeah. I think he loves guys with heart and fight, like, doesn't he? Because he sees that. Like, he loves obviously skill, but I see him like he loves seeing people go to war.
Fighters, you know?
Yeah, the people that like those 5-rounders, those sort of title fights with people bleeding and dripping and still standing. Like, he loves that.
He's got a good eye of knowing if someone wants to be in there, if they're in there for the clout or the shine. Yeah. Where me, I'm not in there for the clout or shine, man. I'm in there because I fucking love fighting.
Yeah. Well, you said you don't really use social media, do you, that much? Which is you actually really in it for the craft of what you're doing. Like, you love it.
It's all I've known.
If we look at your favorite fighter in the UFC, do you have one at the moment? Like, someone that when they're fighting, you watch that card? There's a lot.
Bobby Knuckles.
Robbie Whittaker, mate.
Like, every time Rob Whittaker walk out, I get
really?
Bumps, man.
Is he like? Do other Aussie fighters look up to him in that fashion as well? Like, is he that big too?
Yeah, to me, like, him and Alex are just fucking god tier Australian fighters.
Yeah, and they're both like unbelievably good blokes. Just like, I haven't met them, but from the outside, like Rob Whittaker, you can say whatever you want to him in a press conference. He'll just look at you and go, all right, mate, like, chill out. Yeah, man, like, he doesn't care.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to train with him quite a bit, and like, he's cool, man. And like, the advice, like, he doesn't say much, but like, the advice he gives is just fucking solid gold.
Yeah, brilliant. I've got a bit of an interesting game for you. So it's got pretty much, I want you to pick your perfect fighter with the skill sets I give you. Obviously, you can use yourself for some of the things I say if you feel that you're the best at it. But just going off your UFC knowledge, which you've got abundance of, I want you to pick the fighter that you would want this skill set from. So let's start with striking.
Most effective, or just a style that I admire the most?
The style that like, if you were making yourself into the most complete fighter ever, like, you're taking stuff from fighters.
If I could strike like Anderson Silva, I'd be pretty happy.
Anderson Silva. Bang.
As much as it might not be the most effective style, it was fucking beautiful to watch.
We love that. What about leg kicks? Who's got a nasty
Jenkins.
Leg breaking. Well, good call. Submissions.
I would say me, but I would like my submissions to be as fancy as Charles Oliveira. We saw him. Charles de Bronx, we saw him in Perth. Bronx, yeah,
he was
he's
there.
So cool, man.
He's a cool. We got a photo with him. Shout out, Charles, man. Appreciate you in the UFC hotel. This is a good one for you. You know it inside out. Jiu Jitsu. I would say that I would have the best MMA Jiu Jitsu game. I just haven't shown it. Yeah.
But Damien Meyer, maybe.
Braden's agreeing with everything here. Braden, you know your shit. All right, Damien Maia, there we go. All right, this is probably, I've got a feeling I know this one, but wrestling.
Wrestling? Oh, I'm gonna try and think of one that surprises you.
Yeah,
now.
go.
You think I'm going
Dagestani land. Yeah.
I do love Khabib's style, but drawing a blank here. I don't know.
So we'll come back to it because this one's my favorite. I reckon you have a good answer on this one. Baddest motherfucker. Like the attitude. Yeah, Jimmy Crute, baby. Here we go, July 8th. I can't wait, man.
I'm going to fucking shock the world, I promise you.
I can't wait, man. I hope, sure he'll be in attendance at the fight, but Conor McGregor, do you think he's coming back? Like, is he going to fight? He's fighting Michael Chandler. Has they said the dates, though? September? Is that what they said?
So, yeah.
So how do you reckon that fight will go?
I think Chandler's going to fucking smash him.
Well, it's a lot. Correct me if I'm wrong, but UFC, like 6 months out, the game moves quick.
Look at the size of Conor McGregor's head. How much fucking growth is he on?
It's just the whiskeys.
There's a Joey Daz quote. He's on the shit that makes your fucking head grow.
I quote that. We love that. That's golden. Yeah, that's right. He's fighting Chandler. How can I forget? Because they did the Ultimate Fighter together.
I think he's going to be too muscle bound, but he looks like he's laying up a little bit, but I think he's going to be too muscle bound. I think Chandler's going to fucking blitz through him. All
right. Well, before we round out with sort of our final question, I just want to get a bit of a prediction on your fight with Alonzo Menifield, because I feel your energy. Even before we got in here, you were just pumped, that like so excited that you get to go back at him again. But how do you sort of see this fight going out without giving too much away?
I want to be myself in there this time. You know, I was the best way to describe the last fight. I was so torn on what to do and what game plan to follow, and how to act. You know, I was fucking over analyzing anything. And this time, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to fight, and I'm going to simplify it, and I'm going to fuck him up, whether it's on the feet or on the ground. I'm going to take him to deep water and drown him.
I think I just shat myself listening to that. Fucking good luck, Alonzo Menifield, mate. You're gonna need it this time with Jimmy Crute's attitude. He's coming. But our final question we have, and we always do this on the Unlaced podcast, so all the listeners will know, we attest sort of 3 traits for you to become Jimmy Crute, obviously at the highest level, and all are important, but the one that hits home to you the most, that you sort of resonate with. So out of resilience, drive, or ambition, like which one of those was sort of so pivotal to your journey for you to be who you are now?
Resilience, drive, then ambition.
Right.
I had to, I don't know, like I've always sort of been like a feather in the wind my whole life. And right now I've sort of like found myself, and I know my views, I know my morals, and I'm making my own decisions. But for my whole life, I've sort of just been a feather in the wind. I just go do what I'm told and do this. So I've had to be resilient.
Yeah.
Because if you put your trust into everyone you come across and you expect everyone else, you're going to be fucked over a lot of times. So for me, resilience, you've got to just be prepared that you might get knocked down here, you might get knocked down there, but you just got to keep getting back up and going. Oh.
Well, you're right in that exact story now. You're coming off the draw and you're going to go for the win and going to get it.
Absolutely.
So we'll be there watching, mate. Hopefully we get Jack Jenkins on a card soon, but definitely going to be watching your fight, Jimmy Crute.
Dana, put Jack Jenkins on 290, please.
There we go. Tell him.
If I can call one more favour, please, boss.
Dana, 60 G's, baby. Well, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Jimmy Crute. Obviously, the fight is coming in July. Fight week in Vegas. We're going to be there, mate. We're going to be supporting you. We appreciate you coming on the show, mate. Good man.
Awesome, bro.
Awesome, bro.